Let's start with the news. Going into 2015, people are going to be asking you, especially the first month, well, why do you think real estate is going to be like this year? So I want to give you some real basics that you can go at them with. And the first thing we have to do is counter some of the headlines that have been taking place over the last 2 weeks of 2014. Let's take a look at home sales for existence. The existing home sales report, which we give you every single month, shows that there was a pretty big drop in November, as there is every winter. We've talked about that for some time now, that there would be a drop in the winter months. But we also talked about the fact that the drop this winter wouldn't be anywhere near the drop of the previous winter. That this winter was going to be one of the best winters we've seen in a decade. Let's show you that. Here is existing home sales from go all the way back in January 2012. We can see that last year, 2013, there was a dramatic drop in home sales starting all the way back at the end of August. Here we've had a build-up all the way to November, and that's when we first saw that drop-off. So we can see there's a big difference. In the valley that was reached last year, we're nowhere near right now. As a matter of fact, that valley, if we look at pending home sales, houses that went into contract, and that's a great indicator of what's going to happen 60 days later to the existing home sales report, we can see that pending home sales last fall and last winter dropped dramatically, almost into a bucket. If we just look at 2014, we can see that toward the end of the year, pending home sales still remained high. They slipped a little bit, as we said they would, but there was no cratering like we saw last year. If we break it down, 2013 versus 2014, for September, October, November, the last 3 months data available, we can see that 2014 far outdistanced 2013. This does not represent the number of sales. It represents what NAR's methodology is on what's a healthy market. They have a formula for that. You can go right to the NAR site to get that formula if you'd like. But I can tell you what NAR does is they take a look at it in that formula. 100 is the baseline. Anything over 100 is a healthy market. Anything under 100 is not a healthy market. Well, we could see even last September, October, November, we were still in healthy market territory, but just barely. This September, October, November, the past one, the last few months, have shown a dramatic increase over that. We are much better off this winter by far than we were last winter. And that's why I think that you're seeing that NAR, Freddie Mac, and the Mortgage Bankers Association are all projecting relatively major increases in sales 2015, the year we're starting, versus last year. And we had a pretty good year last year, and it's going to be much better this year. So don't get caught up in that the home sales, those last couple of headlines, words like collapsed, were being used in headlines about home sales. No, that's not true. Home sales didn't collapse. They showed seasonal change. It was a drop-off, but it was nowhere near the drop-off that we saw just last season. Now let's take a look at home prices, because people are going to ask you this question. Again, there are some headlines talking about the fact that prices are dropping. That's not true. And very, very, very few markets are we actually seeing depreciation. Almost none. But what we are seeing is the amount of appreciation compared to the year before is slowing down. And we started giving you this slide, at the beginning of last year, showing you that last January, January 2014, as compared to January 2013, prices were up 13.2%. But throughout the year, as the market became more normal, the price appreciation started to slow. It didn't enter into red territory. We didn't get depreciation. But the amount that houses were going up slowed down. The acceleration of the appreciation slowed down. But there's still headlines out there that people can read and think that prices are falling. That's not true. I want you to make sure that you understand the difference between those two things, and you can explain it. Please make sure that this particular slide, which is a very simple way to show it, is on your iPads, your tablets, your smartphones. Because that question's going to be asked. There's enough headlines out there talking about prices are dropping. They're not. The amount of appreciation is dropping. Big difference between those two statements. As a matter of fact, based on the Home Price Expectation Survey, this year, 2015, they think prices are going to go up about 4%, 3.7%. And next year, they think it's going to be back to a more normal between 3 and 3.5%. That's, if we look back historically, what annual appreciation is in this country. So as far as prices are concerned, we're in a good place. They're beginning to normalize. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we were hoping for ever since 2007, a more normal market. And we're approaching that, and we're getting closer and closer to it as every day goes by. Now, here is one thing that no one is talking about that I think is a challenge. That's months' inventory of homes for sale. Now, the reason I think that's a challenge, we're going to come back to this later, is the fact that for a normal market, for there not to be a big, fluctuation in prices, we need about 6 months inventory. That means that the amount of houses for sale is in balance with the number of people looking to buy a house. That 6-month number is an historic number that makes it a real, a market that we could really predict very easily. However, what we're seeing over the last several months is we're getting further and further away from that 6-month number. As a matter of fact, we're just barely over 5 months now. And we can see last year, December of 2013 and January of 2014, this same time last year, what wound up taking place is the fact that inventory was down below 5, and that was causing those prices to go up. So even though the experts are projecting that prices are going to remain, pretty stable going forward, the one thing that might challenge that analysis is the fact that inventory is dropping. We have to get out and list right now. It's crucially important to the market, to keeping the market normal, that we're out there listing properties the minute you get finished with this. And we'll talk again a little bit about that, a little more about that in the next few seconds. Now let's take a look at mortgage interest rates. Well, we've given you over the last year, the actual last 2 years, over the last 12 months, we've given you the last 2 years of rate activity. And we can see that early January, the first quarter of 2013, interest rates were under 3.5%. And then they shot up, and then they've been falling off ever since that, trying to find where is that equilibrium point? Where is the point that interest rates should be? Now remember, part of the reason to keep interest rates low from the government standpoint was in order to spur the economy. So a lot of people at this time last year were projecting interest rates were going to go up. But the economy didn't really recover the way they wanted it to. So they kept interest rates low. They kept that downward pressure on interest rates, again, to use that as a catalyst to get the economy really cooking. Well, now we're at numbers showing that the economy is in much, much better shape. Now, I realize, ladies and gentlemen, there are some regions in the country that are still not seeing the benefits of a better economy. I get that. And I also get that in every region of the country, there are some families that are not yet seeing the benefits of an improving economy. I don't want you thinking I'm blind to that. But overall, the economy is getting much better. The job market's getting much better. So what's taking place right now, there's less pressure of the government to put that downward pressure on interest rates. So we can see where they were in 2014, and we can see where Freddie Mac is projecting them to go in 2015. We had that fall off as the economy was getting better. Now that the economy is better, we're going to start to see them slowly rise. And rise to a point that's going to be almost a full percentage point higher than they are right now by the end of the year. And it's not just Freddie Mac that thinks that. We'll be giving this as on the update section normally every single month. We're going to give you what Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and the National Association of Realtors, what their projections are for the next 4 quarters. And then we're going to go ahead and average all 4. Because again, the more data we have, probably the more accurate the bottom line result will be. So we could see that if we combine the 4 major entities that do project forward on interest rates, we can see that they all believe that interest rates are going to be almost exactly a point higher on average than they are this year, or this point of 2015. What does that mean? Well, that means that buyers' purchasing power is going to be affected as interest rates go up. Here's an example. If someone wanted to lock in a rate somewhere between $1,850 and $1,875, somewhere in that ballpoint, we can see as interest rates go up, if they were looking at a $400,000 house today, well, if rates do go up to that 4.75, they're looking at now, for the same mortgage payment, a house only valued at $360,000. The purchasing power of that buyer has decreased because interest rates went up if they want to keep the principal and interest payment the same. That's an important concept that we have to make sure that not just first-time home buyers understand. We have to make sure that the second-time home buyer understands that also. That move-up buyer, that third-time home buyer, that fourth-time home buyer. Now, you always ask us, well, this is $400,000, my market's $100,000, my market's $800,000. Remember that in the infographic section under content in the website, we've actually given you the buyer's purchasing power starting at 100, going all the way up to $1 million. All you have to go is go to content, infographics, right across the top there. Just click on that red box. It won't be red. The box won't be red when you get there. But I just wanted to highlight where it is, the purchasing power slides.